community safe. As a parent, educator, neighbor, or friend, we all play a role in building safe and healthy futures for ourselves and our loved ones. Do your part. Take the first step today. Visit GetSmartAboutDrugs.com to access education, prevention, and treatment resources. Counterfeit prescription pills laced with fentanyl are deadly. Be their protector. Be informed. Visit GetSmartAboutDrugs.com.
Environmental protections and the consequences of litter are issues all states face. Nearly all litter ends up harming our environment, water supply, and communities.
Nobody Trashes Tennessee is the state of Tennessee's litter prevention campaign. It was birthed out of the Tennessee Department of Transportation's desire to create a litter prevention campaign focused on state pride. There are two different types of litter. There's intentional litter and unintentional litter. Intentional litter is when someone throws something out of a window. Unintentional litter is caused by debris out of a truck bed or a car accident and debris is left behind.
Litter is really relevant for two reasons. One, there is a lot of...
Good afternoon, Commissioners. If we'll come to order, we'll call to order the monthly Anderson County Budget Committee. Let the record reflect, though, we are on a different date. Today is Monday, August 8th at 4 o'clock p.m. Robbie, if you would, call the roll, please.
Okay. Commissioner Creasy is absent. Commissioner Denenberg?
Here.
Commissioner Fritz is absent right now. Commissioner Jameson? Here. Commissioner Smallridge? Here. Commissioner Waddell? Absent. And Commissioner White? Here. And Commissioner Val?
Here. Let the record reflect we do have a quorum, but to just make sure everybody's on the same page, everything will have to pass with all 5 votes unless another member does appear, just so everybody remembers that. If y'all will join me in prayer, and then we'll ask Director Nathan Sweet if he would please lead us in the pledge. Heavenly Father, we come to you today giving you honor and praise and thanking you for all the blessings that you send to us, Lord, most of all for our salvation. Please forgive us when we sin. Strengthen us, God, not to sin, but to always do what you would have us to do each and every day. Lord, as we begin this meeting, we pray that you be in the hearts and the minds of the commissioners, of the audience, Lord, of all your people. Give us your wisdom, your discernment, Father, to do what you would have us to do. All this we ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioners. Let the record reflect Commissioner Creasy is present. And the first item on the agenda is the cash and fund balance report. We'll give Director Holbrook a minute. Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
All right. So the cash and fund balance report is unaudited, so none of the really none of the restricted amounts have changed. We are closing Friday, and I'm possibly might have an updated report for County Commission on Monday. It just depends on how smooth things go Friday, because sometimes we end up leaving it open another day or two. So anyway, right now total fund balance for the general funds $12.7 million. Cash at the end of July was $15.3 million, which is $150,000 or so up from last year at this time. The school's cash $15.1 million, total fund balance $10.7 million. Any questions on the fund balance report? Okay, the sales tax report for June, the county was down 5%. We received $4,005,779.75. The county portion was $536,246.75, which is up from last month. Actually, it's the second highest month this quarter. It's still down 12% from last June. But like I was telling Shane, I mean, I think these are really good numbers, but that last year at this time, as we were pumping a lot of money in the economy, and people were spending a lot more money on stuff besides gas and groceries and things like that. So sales tax is, I still think, doing really well.
Any questions on the sales tax report?
No.
So I guess that brings us to the consent agenda.
Okay, the consent agenda 1 through 4 are transfers, seeking approval as a group. Be happy to answer any questions.
Move for approval as a group. Second.
Commissioner Smallridge moves to approve items 1 through 4 as a group, seconded by Commissioner Denenberg. Any discussion? Commissioner White.
I got a question for John about, it says in here that the insurance is going to replace, and I guess when do you expect that to happen?
We are still in the process of getting everything over to them. And we've got quotes turned in today, got pictures turned into Kim, so it's just a matter of HR or insurance getting with the insurance companies and at their time. I'm not sure when it'll happen.
And the furniture that you're gonna get, is it on order or?
No, nothing's done until we get,
Oh.
that's just getting in place so we can buy some stuff to start
Okay.
working with. Our computers, we lost 5 of them, so with that stormwater, that gets us back up in our computers and the furniture. Whenever we can find something comparable to it, we can throw it in place just to get us back in office.
So how are you handling the job right now without this?
Well, we're, got makeshift things about this tall, about like that, for computers sitting on it and laptops, and we're working.
Okay,
We've got 2 bays open, and we're waiting on some, equipment quotes which come over the weekend to get 2 of them repaired. There's some safety switches they want to replace, so we got 2 bays we can't use, but 2 that we're allowed to use, so.
good deal. Thanks, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Okay, 5 through 10 are from the school department. Appropriations from the school department. I can answer any questions. We can take them individually, however you'd like to approach them.
Make a motion, we take them as a group.
Motion made by Commissioner White to approve items 5 through 10 as a group. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Denenberg. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Can I say one thing?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that. I had a question come up, and I wasn't in purchasing, about the, one of the things about the, our Cherokee and the $5,000. And what that does is we don't actually pay Cherokee other than that $5,000. What that $5,000 does, that offsets if a student does not have Medicare or insurance. That way we still can pay to get that student the help they need. So that's what that was. I know I had a question about that, but I do thank you for approving this tonight. The bonuses for all of our employees will go out about the second week in November. So thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead, Rob.
Okay. Number 11 and 12 are from the drug court. One is for the 5% raise. We don't put the raise in for the grants until we can, because we've already submitted their budget, so we have to rearrange funds to get approval to do that before we can submit a raise. And the second one is for the recovery court program for a part-time counselor from the restricted funds.
I make a motion, we approve this, but I'd like to hear what you said again about that raise.
For the first one, for $2,318.
Yes?
Anytime there's a grant involved, we do not, the 5% raise that the county approves, we don't, the 5% is not included in their raise, because they are paid with a grant, and we can't spend more than the grant allows, and they've already submitted the budget. Usually by the time we have done our budget, Randy's already submitted the budget for the grants, so we have to ask permission to move funds around to give them their raise.
Okay, thank you.
Motion made by Commissioner White to approve items number
11 and 12.
11 and 12. Do we have a second? Second by Commissioner Jameson. Any discussion? Hearing none. I'm sorry, Judge Spitzer, go ahead, sir.
I'm just happy to make myself available to comment, to answer any questions about the LADAC funding request that we have. It's a licensed alcohol and drug abuse counselor person that for a long time was funded by ETHRA, which I'm sure y'all are all familiar with. The ETHRA vans travel all over the county. They do a lot of great work. But for years and years, they've worked with community corrections, which is the very last step for folks about to go to prison. So they take people who are right on the cusp of going to prison, they put them in community corrections as sort of a super intensive probation supervision. And closely associated with that is our drug court program, where we try to take those folks who have a long history of drug abuse and drug problems and are right on the edge of going to prison, and we put a really intensive effort into trying to help their rehabilitation. We send them to inpatient treatment, we send them to intensive outpatient treatment, we send them to halfway houses, we help them find jobs, we help them get their driver's license back, get their lives back together, reconnect with their families. We just had a graduation for one of our folks who's been in the program for about 2 years now. He actually used to work for Anderson County government. He worked for animal control and had an injury, got on pills, and his life went down a horrible path, but we were able to help him recover from that and get back on track, and celebrated his recovery. Mayor Frank was actually with us there just a few weeks ago for his graduation. It's a fantastic effort. You know, drug rehabilitation is the big driving force across the state, something Governor Lee's deeply committed to, and something we're working really hard to do. Now, unfortunately, ETHRA has lost all of their grant funding for East Tennessee and is no longer available to provide us with that social worker. That's so important to go out to the jail and do the assessments for people and actually find out, you know, what is the extent of their drug problem? What do they need help with? Are they really a good candidate for our drug court program? So ETHRA sort of evaporated on us because they didn't get the grant funding. And we're scrambling to try to find ways through TDOC, Ridgeview, other alternatives. How do we keep this system running? Because we've got to get these people evaluated in order to bring them into our drug court program, try to help them recover, try to help them stay out of prison. Now, we're really, really sort of lucky in the short term that our LADAC, our counselor, who was driving all the way from Jamestown to be down here with us every week as part of our drug court program, she's actually going to be working in Blount County. And we've made arrangements to have her on a contract basis continue to help us here in Anderson County. Blount County's blessed her spending that time with us. She's willing, she's committed to our program. She has personal daily connections with everybody that's in our program. We've got about a dozen folks going through it right now. And so we've worked up a way of paying her an hourly rate for the assessments and the daily contacts. She talks to these people every day by text or by phone to make sure that they're going to their AA meetings or their NA meetings or their whatever Ridgeview counseling they need to do. She's really integrally involved in their counseling day to day, and really a critical resource for our drug court team. But we're scrambling to find a way of how can we pay her on a contract basis until we can stabilize and get TDOC on board or some other options long term. So that's what this funding is about. Jay Yeager's office has helped us draft a contract already. And payroll's been working to help us with how to make all this work. That's what the funding's for.
Good job. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any questions for Judge Spitzer? Commissioner Smallridge?
Yeah, just wondering, how many clients do you typically how many clients do you evaluate and service each year through this program?
We try to keep somewhere around a dozen people involved at all phases, sort of constantly. Now, we've got, people that fail out and get sent to prison. We've got people that graduate successfully. We've got people that are in our program, but we send them to Morgan County Regional, which is an actual residential super intensive rehabilitation program. It's only for men, and they just now opened a new one in Nashville for women to balance out the opportunities. But we generally try to keep about a dozen. Now, when COVID was a problem and our numbers dropped down to about 6 or so at the low point, now we're back up to a dozen, and we've got another 4 or 5 on deck that are applying, trying to get into the program. There's an intensive screening process. You know, you can't have any violent convictions on your criminal history to be in our program, and you have to have genuine drug issues. You can't just be using it as a get-out-of-jail-free card to try to not go to prison. We have to be able to get you evaluated and establish you've got the drug problems. Also, we don't take any kind of sex offenses, so those people are automatically disqualified. We are aggressively working at trying to improve our connection with the jail population and get them to participate. As a matter of fact, I just paid out of pocket to have some posters developed. I should have thought to bring it, to encourage people to consider drug court, and Shane's been kind enough to take several of those and put them up at the jail. And it's basically a stair step that describes all the different entities that are involved in helping people in their recovery, and it says, you know, helping you on your path to recovery. It's a way of trying to reach out, because we struggle to get minority buy-in. We struggle to get female applicants. We're trying to do all we can to reach out. And there's an across-the-state push for recovery. It saves taxpayer dollars, too. You know, it's cheaper to have them recover than it is to pay to feed them in prison.
Why do you lack buy-in by women and others?
We don't really know. We're meeting every month now to sort of analyze our processes and figure out how can we improve our outreach. We're constantly having to fight a perception at the jail that drug court is really just setting people up for failure. Shane probably knows as much about this as I do. You know, people within the jail community, they talk. They have all day to talk about, you know, different programs and pleas and, you know, that sort of thing. And we have to constantly push back against people running their mouths that, well, drug court is just, you know, another way of getting you eventually to prison. One of the ways we combat that is the people who are about to graduate, they actually go to the jail and they speak to their fellow inmates for a good 30, 45 minutes about their own recovery journey and the process that they went through. So you've got people who have shared jail cells together, and now this person's talking about how great recovery court has been and what a huge benefit it's been to them in their life, you know. And I've had two different folks, the gentleman that just graduated a few weeks ago and another friend of his that's about to graduate first week of October. Both of those have already given speeches at the jail talking about their own recovery journey. So we're trying aggressively to get the word out. We've had ladies apply, but sometimes they just, you know, for whatever reason, they're not being truthful about their own charges and their own sort of depth of their own drug problem. Roane County reached out to us a few months ago and had a lady that they wanted to send to us for us to try to help them. There's always opportunities to help people on their recovery path, but we need the resources, and we've been left, we just kind of got the rug pulled out from under us by ETHRA being pulled away.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any further discussion?
Does ETHRA have hope of obtaining new grants or new funding?
There seems to be a push statewide to move most of this responsibility to the Tennessee Department of Corrections and sort of push ETHRA largely out of the picture.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? Just to remind everybody, the motion on the floor is to approve items 11 and 12 for the drug court. If no more discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Thank you, ladies
Thank
and
you,
gentlemen.
Judge.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Director Gadd.
Okay, 13 and 14 are from the county clerk, Jeff Cole. They are increasing revenue, $3,500, and maintenance and repair for.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner White moves to approve
13 and 14.
items 13 and 14, seconded by Commissioner Jameson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Number 15 is from the highway department. It's for $32,700 for office equipment, maintenance and repair equipment for a new server and other contracted services.
15.
15 highway department.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner White moves to approve item number 15.
Second.
Got a second by Commissioner Smallridge. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Okay, 16 through 18 are from the Tourism Department. Number 16 is $25,000 from the restricted fund balance for capital tourism-related projects approved by their board. Number 17 is for $40,790. It's increasing revenue, the hotel motel tax, to fund a new full-time position. Is it full-time, Stephanie? A full-time position for a sales and event position. And number 3 is a grant. We're increasing revenue and increasing 799 T-Dot, $9,500.
I make a motion to approve with a question.
Commissioner White moves to approve all three of them, sir.
Yes, sir, 17,
16, 17, and 18.
16, 17, and 18.
Okay. Seconded by Commissioner Jameson. Any discussion, Commissioner White?
Ms. Wells, this new position, is that a position that you've never had before?
No, we have had it before, and then we had the person resign, and we didn't refill it because of COVID, and weren't sure where we were gonna be and what was going to be happening, like the rest of the world. And so now that things have kind of gotten back to normal, we're looking to fill that position
Good deal.
again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Stephanie, it was a sales and events?
Yes, so
coordinator?
they will be recruiting events and working on sales. So like motor coach sales, recruiting small events like car shows and, different things like that, fishing tournaments, those kind of things, so.
Be fun.
How much revenue did that bring in when you had it before, you know?
It really just depends on the group. Usually, we had about 300 hotel rooms at the interstate at that time, so we were looking at events that would fill those rooms. So, the fishing tournament, when we had it, we expected our revenue to be around $900,000 in economic impact on just that one event. So by the time they come and they practice, and we had people that were here the whole week, we had people that were here multiple weekends before practicing. So, it's gonna vary. Our goal is to put heads in beds, is to try to fill up our hotels, especially on those weekends that they're not typically full. So usually after you get past the second Saturday in October, we start to really see a decline. So we'd work on trying to fill some of those weekends with some events, and the same thing in the spring. In the summer, we're good. Our occupancy is very high at all of our locations, even our short-term rentals. But we see low occupancy kind of in the shoulder seasons with the fall and the spring. So we'll be working on recruiting events during those times. It's not gonna be festivals or, anything like that. It would be a group that would come in and use our facilities, hopefully fill up our hotels, and then go home.
So I know COVID kind of put a damper on a lot of those activities. Were you pretty much doing that while you didn't have someone in this
Correct, and we
position?
weren't really doing it that much. Motor coaches weren't running, groups were not having events, getting together, so we really weren't having, a lot of that. But it is a relationship business, so we tried to continue those relationships and just get information out to them on a regular basis of what we're doing. So, but a lot of those, like you said, a lot of those activities did not take place during COVID. And then when we do recruit the event, this person will be responsible for managing that and talking to the event coordinator and making sure that everything goes off without a hitch.
Any further discussion? Commissioner Smart?
Yeah, so if I understand, this is a new position, but it's really not a.
Correct,
It's a position
correct.
you've had in the past and you let go vacant. or-
Exactly, exactly. And we said full-time, we're really looking at the 30 to 40-hour person, so it would still be a full-time position technically, but we would look at about 30 hours to start off with.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Okay, number 19 is from EMA. It is for 2 grants from DOE, $16,000 and $28,250, increasing revenue and increasing other supplies and materials.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner White moves to approve item number 19. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Denenberg. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
Okay, 20 and 21 are for county commission. The 5,922, both are from unassigned, is to buy new iPads for the new commissioners and $1,000 for the copier lease. That was not put in the budget.
Move for approval.
Second.
Commissioner Smallridge moves to approve items number 20 and 21, seconded by Commissioner Denenberg. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Motion carried.
Okay, 22 is from Finance. It is the, using the ARPA funds. It's a request from County Commission from the last workshop to bring back some, it was actually last County Commission meeting. I think we talked about bringing some things back to this committee for approval, and I'll just go down the list. The first one is for EMS ambulances for 2 years. Nathan received bids, and this is for 6 ambulances for the next 2 fiscal years, 1.3 million. Also, their budget, if you recall, and during budget season, the EMS had quite a large budget deficit, and this will be a budget fund balance adjustment. We're gonna pay for dispatch and workers' comp out of the, for this year, for this budget season out of the ARP funds. Number 3 is to purchase the Family Justice Center, $175,000. We've been leasing that building. We will purchase the building. The next one is for 2 years of sheriff's vehicles, $900,000. It will buy their vehicles for the next 2 years. Other vehicles on capital requests, there's $225,000 in the budget for that. We've had several departments ask for county vehicles, that we have some that are getting really bad, and I think John can even attest to that, we are going to need to purchase some vehicles for some of the other departments. The next one is IT infrastructure, the multi-factor MFA and switches, and IT capital needs $150,000. The multi-factor authorization or authentication is what it should be, not authorization. But that is something our Tennessee Risk Management has requested that we do in the county, or we're going to have to pay more insurance. So this is something that we need to have happen. The next one is for the Oak Ridge Fire Department Training Center. It should support all volunteer fire departments and cities, $273,500. The next one is election office digital poll books. We had previously on, as a request for capital needs, new election voting machines, but the state has agreed to pay for, we're going to receive a grant for half of it, the county fund half. The state is fully funding new election voting machines, and this is a request for digital poll books that I'm pretty sure the voter will sign instead of how you sign by hand when you go in. You'll be signing an electronic signature on these poll books at each precinct. And the last one is other capital outlay requests from just $40,000. I know we had a request in operations that Judge Layton had requested $10,000 for some new furniture to be put in place when the new judge arrives. There may be some more of that. I was telling Chairman Val earlier, if none of these funds are spent, they will roll back into the 121 fund and can be reallocated, but these are the requests we have for right now. It's $3.5 million, $3,501,226. Be glad to answer any questions. And on the second page, it kind of highlights these requests that I've just read off, and the ones that we have. The 8 we've taken care of on this one.
And just for clarification, Robbie, all of these that's on this one is coming out of the
ARP funds.
ARP funds,
Yes, sir.
commonly known as COVID money.
Kind of.
That's kind of the nickname.
I move to approve this.
Commissioner Jameson moves to approve item number 22. Do we have a second?
I'll second for purposes of discussion.
Commissioner Smallridge seconds the motion. Any discussion? Commissioner Smallridge.
Yeah, I have 3 or 4 questions. I don't want to take all the time. Some other people may have questions too. But the second one on their EMS budget fund balance, I understand EMS has a fund balance right now of $930,000. Is that correct, Robbie?
That was correct at the end of the year. I don't think it'll be that high once the new.
Okay.
I think some of the revenues did not come in what's it called? Excuse me a minute. The kicker payments was down this year, and also the Digitech collections were not as high as we had budgeted for, so.
Okay.
And with gas increases and that sort of thing in their budget, I don't think they're gonna have as much, I don't know that they'll have any rollover money. It may be that it takes some of their fund balance.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
They may not, I don't know that they're gonna, of course, we don't have audited numbers, so I don't know if they're gonna have any rollover.
Okay.
At the end of the year, they spent some of that money. Let's see.
But if EMS should run into a problem with funds, ultimately, our own fund balance is there if it had to be.
No, we can't use our fund balance as long as they're Fund 118. It has to
Okay.
come from theirs.
Okay.
So
Thank-
their fund balance in the budget, their budget deficit, excuse me. I should have had this already for you guys. Was $357,747. But as long as they stay at Fund 118, and we were lucky enough to have, of course, we've taken care of their capital needs for the next 2 years, but in order to buy, like when they have to buy EMS, the ambulances, if we don't have the governor's grant or the ARP funds, then it has to come from their fund balance. Unless they move to the general fund, which there has been some discussion of that. But anyway, none of these have, I mean, we can take each of these items individually. I mean, I know there would be several questions about them, but that's just what we propose for some of the capital needs and issues with the county.
On the Family Justice Center purchase, could we hear something about the trade-off? Right now, we're leasing, is that correct? And what's the financial benefit of purchasing the building, and what part of the building, are we talking about the whole building? Anyway,
Sure.
I have let you tell me.
Sure. So we appreciate you all letting us speak to this issue last month and this month when we were asked to bring this back. So we are now leasing the building. There's an arrangement between the ORNL Federal Credit Union, the state of Tennessee, Anderson County, all to arrange for this lease. These funds, these federal funds passing through the state, could not be used for purchase. They could be used for a lease payment. And so we structured the arrangement so that we essentially, the state of Tennessee is overpaying the lease payment, about double. And so we are now leasing the building with a right to purchase it at the end of the lease term for this $175,000. In that way, the state is essentially paying portion of the building because we're overpaying the lease. So as we are making lease payments every month, we're paying what we would expect to pay for the lease, and then we're overpaying to pay down what would be the purchase price of the building. And that's where we got this $175,000 option. Because of the availability of the ARPA money, we've talked to the state of Tennessee, we've talked to the credit union, and both have agreed that should the county use the ARPA money, the credit union would go ahead and sell us the real estate for that same $175,000 price tag, even though we would not have been making these payments. So that was quite a concession on their part because they would expect to be getting about $2,000 a month over and above a normal lease payment for the next couple of years. But they would still honor that price now because they recognize the availability of ARPA funds. Also, the state of Tennessee has agreed that if the county releases the ARPA funds, the money that would have been going for those lease payments, they would allow us to redirect for other expenses like taxes, insurance, maintenance, and utilities. So the credit union and the state of Tennessee are sort of waiting to see if the county will release the funds for these purposes, and then we would own that real estate. As to your question about what would it be, this is, for those of you who have not seen it, many, many years ago, this was the Oak Ridge Public Library. It is a facility unlike ones that we could build today because of the real estate and the surroundings. The building is divided into thirds, 1/3 occupied by the Family Justice Center, 1/3 occupied by the credit union, and 1/3 is being occupied right now by the United Way of Anderson County. So the building would be owned in those three portions by those three entities, and like in a condominium or homeowners association, we would then share the costs of the utilities, maintenance, taxes, and so forth. So going forward, there would just be payments for those common area expenses, but there would be no real estate payments or lease payments. This would guarantee us into the future the availability of the Family Justice Center and the services that it's providing to the victims of elder abuse, domestic violence, sexual assault, and child abuse in Anderson County.
I don't want to take all the time here. Maybe somebody else has a question they want to ask.
Sound like a good deal to me.
It helps to hear it.
We were very pleased that our other partners have agreed to do this, and so we're ready to go as soon as the county is.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner White?
I guess I'd like to know, what happens if we approve this?
Would have to be approved by commission also. The county commission, then these funds will be set aside in these codes to make these purchases over
Well,
the
I
next.
see this list that you've got here.
Yes, sir.
$3.5 million, but then I look over here at the potential, and how did you, come up with these 9 or 10? How did they stack up with these other requests?
Well, we were asked to bring back things from in the workshop that would address capital needs for the county.
Now, I will say this, I wouldn't want to get too complicated with it, but obviously we have the authority to amend the current motion and either remove some of these or add from the other list, I would assume.
That's true. There are actually 3 more requests after this for other items.
I mean,
2
the
are
motion on the
water.
table right now is all of these items on item number 22.
Well, for instance, other vehicles on capital request, $225,000.
That's up to, yes. I don't think we'll spend that much on other vehicles, but we do have
Well,
several.
then why ask for it?
Because we have several vehicles in the county. John, is he still here? That
I
need.
think that's too generic.
Well,
In my opinion, it's too broad, it's too,
I will
give
say
us this much money and we're gonna buy all.
Commissioner White, we have brought, for the last 3 years in capital needs, I've had several departments turn in vehicles that we've not even considered, and they just keep getting older, so it is a need. I mean,
I'm not saying it's not a need, I'm just saying that this is just not,
Maybe broke down by department, maybe, or
Well-
type of vehicle.
I don't know, just too broad, it seems to me like. If I was gonna buy 7 vehicles, I'm sure that they wouldn't, all the last 5 digits wouldn't be zeros. I mean, you don't,
we've just allotted a certain amount of funds for these vehicles. We have till 2026 to spend these funds. It doesn't mean that it's all going to be spent this current year. When you set aside this money each year, we have, like just for the EMS and sheriff vehicles, these are for 2 physical years of their vehicles that we have purchased for, so we will not have to consider these for the next 2 years. The vehicles are the same way. 225,000 could be spent all the way up to 2026 on new purchases in the county.
so those vehicles, those other vehicles is not included, the sheriff's vehicle.
No,
And that's not including the EMS ambulances.
that does not. I think I think the mayor talked about how solid waste had to leave their car running everywhere they stop, because if they turn the ignition off, it won't start again. So once they get it started, I mean, we have some pretty,
But you don't replace that vehicle with the new vehicle. I mean, you put a new starter in it, I guess.
I guess you could. What year is that, John?
2003, it's had several starters, several distributors. I mean, it seems to be only one problem with that.
I don't like the list. I'm just one of many, but I don't like the list. I think it's too generic. I think it's too,
I mean, these have been discussed at 2 workshops now. We have to make some decisions about ARP funds, in my opinion. We just can't keep having a workshop and not making a decision about anything. This is what the committee, the commissioners who were at that workshop wanted to do.
And I'll grant you, I wasn't at the workshop. It just, I don't like it.
I'm
but-
not saying it was, they want to do every one of these. They told us to bring back 7 or 8 items, and this is what we brought back, me and the mayor and Randy met.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I have a couple other.
Go ahead, sir.
Robbie, tell me a little bit more about digital poll books.
To go along with the new the voting machines that they're going to receive from the state, the digital poll books were not funded by the state. They have to pay for those themselves. They're $100,000. They would buy, I'm assuming, I don't know a whole lot about this, but they would buy poll books for each precinct, and each voter would sign that poll book when they voted. Now you hand signature when you walk in to vote on a piece of paper, and this would be a digital signature on a computer.
So if we have new election machines.
Yes, that would go with
voting
these.
machines coming from the
Yes,
state.
this goes with the new voting machines. That, I don't know if they'll be purchased this year, 2 years from now. This is only to be set aside to vote. Like, all this money is not set aside to spend in this current fiscal year. It could go to 2026 for, you know,
If something happened, we don't get the election machine.
then we would reallocate the money.
So
And I suppose, I mean, I honestly think a lot of that's some of that will happen. We will not spend all the money that's allocated, but it's hard to get, I mean, we're doing our best to guess exactly what is needed.
why not wait for something like this until we know about the
We
election?
could,
Pardon?
we could. We could definitely do that.
Last question on the very last item. 40,000, is that correct? Judges, 10,000 from operations. What?
I just put that on there so we would know we covered that in operations, and I didn't include it. I don't know if I included it in your all's packet. Commissioner McCain made a motion to forward Judge Layton's request to increase the general sessions judge budget by $10,000 to allow the newly elected judge to purchase new furniture for their offices to the Budget Committee for them to make a recommendation to full commission in August.
Is he taking the old furniture?
No, he is not. I asked the same question. He's not taking the old furniture. They have a very small budget with the judges. Both of these judges do. I mean, and that's another thing that could be handled later if.
Yeah.
We get a lot, I mean, we have a lot of smaller requests on capital needs. We haven't addressed that. We never address that in the budget. We always address it later in the next 2 or 3 budget after, in September. We always have smaller needs. This would take care of all of the smaller needs that are asked for in the budget. That's why the
My
40.
thought is, I don't have a problem if we need new furniture.
I don't know that-
In each of those offices.
Right.
But just to say we're gonna set aside 10,000 for, just doesn't mean, I don't think it's good budgeting.
It's like
I'm
giving
just-
your wife a blank check and telling her to go shopping.
I mean, it's a small amount, I know, but
It is. And I'm just following a request from operations and from the judge. I'm just the messenger.
I'll have one.
Go ahead,
last
sir. Yes, sir.
comment. I'll just point out, we still, if my calculations are right, after, we would still have $8 million or so left.
$8,538,925.01 that we still have not spent.
American Rescue Fund.
Yes,
Right.
if we approved all these, that's it, even if we don't, and like I said, we don't have to approve all these. If you're not happy with one of them, or 2 of them, or 3, we can take them off.
Mr. James?
Just for discussion purposes, we decide to do all of these things, will this raise the tax rate?
No. This will actually help, in my opinion, by addressing capital needs for the county for a couple of years. This helps keep the tax rate what it is, because, I mean, we're not using our fund balance. It protects our fund balance, which, if we're not raising the tax rate, then every citizen benefits in the county, because we're not increasing taxes.
I said I was.
That's all right.
I guess I think part of our problem is, or my problem, maybe I'm the only one, is I don't think we've done a good job of setting priorities and, saying, looking at urgency, are other funds available? I don't think we have done a very good job, and I think that's why we're struggling a little bit with some of these items. That's it, I'm done.
Any further discussion?
I'd like to see us delay this for 30 days.
Robbie, is there a,
There's no problem with that.
Mayor,
I mean, I will say this, and Nathan can explain this better than me, but there's a huge back order on EMS ambulances. If we, I mean, it's like a 2-year delay if we order today or right now. So, I mean, that's why there was such a need to get ambulances ordered.
I can understand that. I mean,
And speaking of priorities, that's the reason the first 3 on the list are EMS, sheriff, EMS, and sheriff were the first 3 of the 4. I mean, I would think that those are 2 of the main priorities in the county along with education, but they receive their own funding, so none of theirs will be included in this. But, I mean, I agree with Commissioner Smallridge with some of those statements too.
Mayor Frank?
I just wanted to address Commissioner White's question about the vehicles. So what Robbie and Randy did was go through and look at, over the years, the various requests that have come through. So each year, as part of your budget agenda, the departments submit their capital requests. And so, for instance, on that particular item, I mean, there would be no issue. If you prefer to handle those, you could just strike line that one. And then what you could do is just with each vehicle, perhaps each department could bring that request to you, but specify out of the American Rescue Plan funds. And that might be a little more transparent for you and make you feel better and be better for the public. And then the other thing is, so in terms of priority, to Dr. Smallridge's question, at the workshop, and I don't have that particular motion with me, but the priority is really on using this money to protect the funds that the county already has and collects. So when we're dealing with extraordinary inflation, we're having wage escalation, in order to make sure that we can pay our people, we protect our funds, that we aren't forced into a corner where we're laying people off or doing hiring freezes or doing some of those actions. At the workshop, the spirit was, let's go ahead and allocate this for things that we're going to have to come up with money for anyway, or make sense in terms of infrastructure. And so we know we're going to need to find money for sheriff's vehicles. And usually what you all do is you look at your rollover and you try to see, how many can we buy using our rollover? It's better to let it, right now where we are with the market environment, it's better to let that money roll over and stay in your fund balance, or even put it in a specified resiliency fund where you protect the operations of Anderson County government during this period of unknown. And so that's what those priorities were. Just, we know we're going to buy ambulances. We know we're going to buy sheriff's vehicles. It makes sense on the Justice Center. And that's where, that came from, is these are things that are already going to be entertained by you. And this is money here, instead of creating a new program where 4 years from now, once 2026 expires, you may have to come up with that money. This kind of helps you offset it and firm up your balance sheet, so to speak. So that's where that came from. If that gives a little better explanation.
Commissioner Jameson?
If we put off some of this stuff for 3 or 4 years, don't things go up? The cost to buy some of this stuff will go up?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, where will we get Are we gonna raise the taxes, or are we gonna cut out something? You know, what,
Well, and you know, here's the thing about this funding is they want to see a work plan. And, you know, you can definitely tie strings to things. If you want to say, okay, we want EMS to go ahead because there's a 2-year waiting period, go ahead and proceed with that one. Go ahead and proceed with a 2-year purchase for sheriff's vehicles. You all can do that. That would be my recommendation, given the waiting periods in the supply chain. I don't think we want to be in a position where somebody calls 911 and, well, we're sorry, we're still waiting on vehicles. You know, there are some things that are going to make sense, but there are some that just setting the money aside keeps you from allocating it to something else that, you know, maybe a new program, but may not make sense.
well, do you think one of the things that's causing people to be hesitant about this is the amount of putting all this in one together?
In one-
come up with several $1 million? Is that what they're upset about?
It might be. I think coming out of the workshop, the request was go ahead and bring some things that had been discussed favorably and that the county already anticipated spending money on. And Finance Director Holbrook thought it would just be most transparent to put it all on one particular list. But certainly this could be carved apart. You all are the governing body. You can do it however you want to do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We have a motion on the floor.
Currently, the motion by Commissioner Jameson, seconded by Commissioner Smallridge, was to approve everything on item 22. So if we go ahead and call for a vote on that and it fails, then we're back to square one. If there's anyone who wants to make an amendment to remove any of these items, obviously we could do that.
I'd like to move to amend the motion to eliminate the last 2 items. The digital poll books, I don't think we need to take action on that now. And $10,000 just, you know, for each judicial office. I would move to remove those 2 items.
Okay?
What 2 items?
The last 2
26
items
and
on the-
27?
No. 100, the 100,000 and the 40,000.
It's the election office, which would be 100,000, and then the capital outlay request of the judges.
And I can add, if we need new furniture, great, let's get it, if we need.
So Commissioner Smallridge moves to remove the last 2 items on the list, which is the election office digital poll books for $100,000. Randy, you got your calculator?
I got one on my phone.
If you could subtract this from the 3.5, which I might be able to do it in my head, but I trust your calculator better than my head. Do 100,000 and then the 40,000. And that would bring the total down to what? I'm sorry?
3,361,226.
Okay. Do we have a second on that amendment? Does anybody else want to take anything off the list? All right, so do we have a second on Commissioner Smallridge's amendment? Do we have a second? Motion dies for lack of a second. Back on the original motion to approve all of item number 22. Any further discussion? Judge Pitcher, go ahead, sir.
May I please, Commissioner, I'd just like to point out that the request for funding doesn't have anything to do with me as a circuit court judge. I just happen to be in the room, and I want to clarify that. It also, I think, doesn't affect juvenile court. I think Judge Layton was just trying to make accommodations for the 2 new incoming sessions judges. But to Commissioner White's point, I think it makes perfect sense, and also to Mayor Frank's, to wait and let those judges come in and say specifically what it is exactly that they need and what those things are gonna cost, instead of a blanket grant. So if y'all wanna table that, it certainly makes sense to me, but it was Judge Layton's request initially.
Thank you, Judge. Commissioner White, you did mention about putting this off for 30 days. Do you want to bring that up as a motion?
I think Mr. Chairman, I think the ordering of the ambulances is, I think that ought to be a priority. I can really see that. The Family Justice Center, that purchase, I can see setting that money aside. The sheriff's vehicles, I can see, we do that every year. We buy vehicles every year. I can see doing that. The rest of this down here, if it was up to me, I'd take all of it off, except those first four, if it was up to me.
You want to put that?
I'll make that a motion, that we approve the EMS request, both of those items, the Family Justice Center and the sheriff's vehicles for 2 years. And then the other vehicles, the infrastructure, I don't really understand the fire department's training center, election office, I don't know about that. And then the furniture. I'd rather us piecemeal that as to, but I make a motion that we approve and I don't want to say all them numbers over there, but the first four items on this list, I'd like to see us approve them and eliminate the rest of them. I'll make that a motion.
Commissioner White moves to amend the motion to include the top four. Randy, are you?
Is it 4 or 5? Because the second one is the second.
He said that.
The ambulances, the budget fund balance adjustments, the Family
Yeah.
Justice Center, and the sheriff's vehicles.
Yeah, both EMS requests.
2 million.
That's 5 line items.
No, it's not, it's 4. The first 4.
No, he's right, it's 5. No, it's 4.
It's 4.
1, 2,
It's
3.
2,712,726.
I'm sorry, one more time.
2,712,726.
So it brings it down to 2. Do we have a second on the amendment? Do we have a second on the amendment?
I'd like to commend Commissioner White. He's always been very frugal and has always tried to keep us in budget. And
Well, then second it.
I also have other comments to follow that, Commissioner White. I do know the hardest thing about passing a budget is our capital equipment and the pay raises. Those two things are very hard for this commission every year. And luckily, we've had good luck the last couple of years, and at least the last 2.
Thanks to you.
And I remember the, back when we got the tax money from Japan, Oak Ridge got $7 million, and I think Anderson County got $4 million. I know the mayor's father remembers that. Was it 5?
Or no, 9, I think the county got, but she's bought the Jolly building for 5.
Yeah. And we had similar discussions as we're having right now, where we got extra money. And, but I just wanted to say that, being the historian of this group.
You're gonna be missed.
Yes, you are. Yeah, and the Justice Center was the Oak Ridge Public Library, but it was also the DOE training facility in between, before it was the credit union.
Will say this, if I could get on board with these first 4, from now on, I'm gonna bring these one individually, because this is gonna be hard to explain to commission too. I should have done them individually. I regret that now. But I think the first 4 are meaningful and good to go ahead and get ordered. the vehicles, because they are taking, every vehicle we order now in the county's taking a very, very long time. So I'm fine with that. If that's something, I could support Commissioner White's motion, and we could take these, I could bring back next month more individual stuff, one at a time, and have more backup for each of them, explaining stuff and et cetera.
So do we have a second on the amendment? Last call for second on the amendment. Motion dies for lack of a second. Back on the original motion to approve all of item, kind of felt like Abraham in the Bible when he was saying, "What, 10, how about 5? How about, do you have a comment? Go ahead, sir. Commissioner Yeager, go ahead.
Comment. It's the training tower for the fire departments. This is a project that every resident in the county will benefit from. Every volunteer fire department, every city fire department can train at this tower for, fire, during a live fire. And the other one's been out of commission for a while, and this is a big deal for every training. How many, do we have 11 fire departments in the county? I can't even remember anymore. But this benefits every resident of the county, and I would hate to see us lose the opportunity to do this.
Thank you, Commissioner Yeager. Any further discussion?
He's saying this is a tower?
Yes, sir, a training facility the Oak Ridge Fire Department has.
I didn't realize it was a tower.
Maybe 3 stories, I'm not sure. 4 stories, yeah.
So, motion on the floor is to approve everything on item number 22. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no.
No.
Anyone else? No. Motion passes.
I respect your vote, Jerry.
Papers flying everywhere. Go ahead, Rob.
23 and 24, I'm going to do them separate. 23, we brought this to the committee last month. It's the witness rooms, new witness room archives reconfiguration, $989,900 of ARP money from the American Rescue Plan. And I'll let the mayor speak to it if she wants to.
So last month, you asked that, or I guess we had a vote that it should be discussed at the workshop first. And so I'm bringing this back. This would be to award the bid for this particular project. We received 4 bids for the construction and completion of the witness rooms, the archives relocation to the first floor, and a concrete foundation. Commission has authorized various phases of this project, from room assignment changes to tenant relocations to architectural fees to design and ADA. The construction involves the reduction of the county clerk's space and the shift to accommodate archives. He is here also if you want to ask any questions about that. All 3 spaces would be modernized to eliminate existing ADA deficiencies. Security would be enhanced for archives, privacy component added for the county clerk dealing with confidential information. This request is to be able to award the bid for construction to proceed. State law does encourage all counties in Tennessee to provide safe space for witnesses. This accomplishes that in compliance with the recommendations of state law. We also have a structural report noting that we do have weight issues for the 3rd floor that was constructed only for human occupation, which was the jail space. In regard to the pricing, I've asked the architects to look at the bids. The pricing is actually in keeping with trending rates, and in fact, a little bit better, because there are 3 areas that require a little more cost for this particular project. One is asbestos remediation for the 1st floor, which does drive up the cost a little bit. And then because we're dealing with the courts, We do have to have after hours on a lot of the work because we cannot be disrupting court, or the honorable judge and other honorable judges would hold Roger in contempt and possibly threat of jail. This did, I look back, the discussions in earnest, where this body started talking in earnest about accomplishing this work, began in 2019. And it took 2019, 2020, 2021. We did a lot of moves because if you recall, this was moving simultaneously with a single entry project. So you'll recall us, a lot of that didn't come to you in terms of the space assignment. That went through operations, where we relocated the elections, we moved CASA, we removed the victim offender program, the credit union moved out, and we did a lot of shifting on this particular project. So it's taken us a very long time. I know Commissioner Denenberg has questioned me sometimes about what's taking you so long, Mayor, but we're finally here and ready to begin if we get the funding approved.
Do we have a motion from item number 23?
I move for approval.
Commissioner Smallridge moves to approve item number 23, seconded by Commissioner Denenberg. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
No.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Motion passes. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, 24 is also from the mayor. It's for the animal control. It is for the cameras and the new port switch. All has been approved by IT, and the quotes are behind it. This is something that's been discussed in County Commission probably the last 3
Motion to
meetings.
approve.
Commissioner White moves to approve item number 24. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jameson. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Okay, number 25 is for the Safe Bevy Court grant. It's just reallocating some funds to $8,523 to payroll codes, other supplies and materials, staff development, and other charges.
Motion to approve.
Commissioner White moves to approve item number 25, second by Commissioner Denenberg. Any discussion? Sorry, my papers are sticking together. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Okay, and number 26 is also from the ARP grants. These are two that I did leave off, but they're public. The first one is for the Cdbg water line project that we've already approved. We have a grant for, and we've approved county funds for also, but the project has went up. This is something that every time we've discussed it, that the workshop's expressed interest in. They want to fund this project, which will give the rest, most everybody in Anderson County water. And the second one is for the Claxton area master plan that includes Gadsden Town for sewer. Just a plan,
Motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
something Commissioner Fitz is really has pushed for.
Second.
Commissioner White moves to approve item number 26, seconded by Commissioner Creasy. Any discussion? Mayor Frank, go ahead, Mayor.
Just real quickly on the Claxton, so this particular expenditure would be, it's not the master plan, it would be, so right now, you all authorized a comprehensive look at the utilities. Some of Claxton is being incorporated into that plan. This particular expenditure would be, and I know Commissioner Wandell is here and this is important to him, it would involve the same engineering firm, Cannon & Cannon, doing additional deep dive, hands-on in the Claxton community with camera work and manhole covers and some of that. So it would be incorporated, and we still may need to come back with some additional requests on that final master plan, but this would be devoted specifically for seeding that on that master plan. Just to be transparent about that.
Any questions for the mayor? Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Chairman Bell, I apologize, because that was supposed to be under the new business. We're at the portion, the new four new ones I gave you all. That was the first one, 26.
Yep.
Because we're done with the regular agenda. So 27 is a budget amendment for the fire truck. We'll complete the fire truck resolution. Last year, we allocated $135,813 for the first half of the Andersonville payment. This budget amendment will move that money into this year's budget, so we will be able to fund that fire truck to complete the
That's just
resolution.
pretty standard business, right?
Yes, it is.
Motion to approve that.
Commissioner White moves to approve item number 27, seconded by Commissioner Denenberg. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Okay, 28 is a request from county clerk decreasing their restricted funds $1,300 and their data processing equipment $1,300. They had a computer breakdown Friday late in the day, and they have an emergency that they need to get replaced, so this will take care of that.
Move for approval?
Commissioner Smallridge moves to approve item number 28. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Denenberg. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
Okay, and 29 is a $10,000 request from Animal Control from their restricted funds for other supplies and materials to purchase a new air unit, a new refrigerator, plus other supplies needed as identified by the new veterinarian consultant, Dr. Garrett.
Move for approval?
Commissioner Denenberg moves to approve item number 29, seconded by Commissioner Smallridge. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carried.
That's it for new business. I do have a couple of items under old business, though.
Anyone else got anything under new business?
Just two. Small.
Director Holbrook, go ahead with old
Okay,
business.
just the first thing really quick, that we received confirmation from the state that our 2023 budget was approved by the state comptroller's office. We have to, we just have to acknowledge that in county commission, so this is me acknowledging that. I don't need a motion or anything, so just letting you all know that we were approved by the state. We did that
Been
before
acknowledged.
June 30th, so we should win some kind of huge award this year. And there's one more item under old business, and the health department dental renovations. The mayor just wanted to speak to that really quickly.
Okay, I was just hopeful we could have a general conversation about the health department. So, as you know, we received a little over $300,000 from the state of Tennessee. I think it was $349. Is that correct, Charles? And then we were able to receive that if we would match a certain percentage. So we matched approximately $110,000. I think it was $116,000. In the health department building is also our county dental program. That's not a state program, that's a county program. They had already requested some renovations in terms of their lab space and their counter and being on top of each other. And so we were already working on that when this state opportunity came forward. What we're proposing is to move the county dental program to one end of the building that currently there are WIC operations, there are some health department operations. So you have, if we're looking at the health department building, we have a long unit, you have health department, seated in the middle of it is the dental clinic, and then more health department. And some of you were there for our first workshop and took a tour of the maze. We have had a few meetings with the regional health director, with the nurses who work at the health department, with the director, with a representative of the state of Tennessee, their construction expert, and I don't know how to say this. A lot of the asks I've tried to keep whittled down, and what I wanted to share with you in conversation is, what do you see as the limits of this project? Because there are a lot of legitimate requests being made in terms of putting all of the medical offices in one particular area. Having an area where children would be able to be with their mother or father or family or caretaker and have a play area. All of the ideas being brought to us by the nurses and regional are very, very good ideas. And we have had, and I don't want to call it conflict, but as I'm sitting there working on the plans with them, I'm saying, we can only fund so much. And, you know, I'm using the language, my commission will only authorize so much. And so right now, I'm going to say, I told Charles, I'm calling it the gold-plated plan. And the gold-plated plan is probably a $2 million budget. And we have to take out what we've already gotten from the state. And I think we can whittle that down, but I just want to know, you know, if conversationally you could tell me what your thoughts are. I mean, do we want to, and in defense of the health department, dental is a county program. So, you know, we can't use that $349 on the dental clinic. We're going to move that, you know, on the county side. But I'm just going to open that up for discussion, and Charles is here. I did ask him to come and maybe talk about some of these things. Nothing that is involved is anything like, you know, highly decorated or top end this or that. It's just moving the space around. And if you know the history on that building, it was 3 separate physician offices originally. So that's why it's organized kind of as a maze. Do we want to go the distance? Do we want to make it like they want it? Do we want to say, you know, this is our ceiling, let's try to keep it within the ceiling? I'm happy to do whatever your will is, really and truly.
Mayor, could you maybe bring us something where, I don't want to say the minimum, but okay, this needs to be done since we're in the
Sure.
This is very desirable. These are kind of, I mean, something that would give us a starting point. 'Cause
Absolutely.
I think it's kind of hard to sit here and say, well, you need $1.5 million or.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
We actually have, I believe, we have that second design too, Charles. So we should have 3 different phases we have been on this, where I could, you know, meet everyone in room 118A. We could lay down the plans, because what we started with on my side with the architect is a minimal renovation, you know, trying to minimize the square footage, because every square foot that you touch is a cost to remodel. And so we have that basic concept plan, and we had some estimates in your ARP documents that we've kind of kept plugged in there as that high-end estimate. And then they made some requests, then they made some additional requests based on some of the workflow and some of those issues. And so we put that together, and we should have 3 plans that we could show you. These are just concept, but you can get an idea that this is going to be a gold plan, and this is going to be a silver, and this is going to be a bronze. So I'm happy to do that, set that meeting.
Yeah, that was just my,
Okay.
off the top of my head, thought. Some other people may have different ideas.
Okay.
So Mayor, are they wanting to just try to move around to try to make the office more efficient?
Yes.
Where specific,
Yes.
okay.
If you, and Charles can speak to this, if you have been in there, so the way it's set up, you actually, in terms of staff, it's not, you're having to staff 2 different entrances, and you're separating your check-ins. So, you know, in terms of workflow in the future, you would really make it a more efficient operation in terms of security, in terms of check-in, in terms of people working with clients, and then you would make it more efficient in that you put all of your medical exam rooms and the lab and the nurse's station would all be in one section. And then your offices and some of the programming and the, you know, Charles can speak more to that, would be in another section. So it's not about necessarily, oh, this wall needs repainting. It's, they want to reconfigure the operation to be more efficient.
As the mayor stated, one of our, I wouldn't say biggest issues, but one of the things is we have currently 3 entrances that we actually during COVID kind of condensed those down because of staffing shortages. You walk in Suite A, Suite B is the health department, and then you have Suite C, which is technically together with Suite B, and then you have Suite D, which we primarily did our WIC in. And what we're really trying to look at is trying to have a centralized entry point, check-in point, and then feed all of the people back to these various clinic areas and try to do that in an efficient manner. And I think for the ones that went on the tour while you were there, you have to zigzag through the building now to get from one side to the other. And some of the commissioners that were there kind of waited because I held back because some of them were still in Suite D. They said, we stopped because we weren't sure where we were at. So we're really just trying to look at a proposal that will make it more efficient, not only for our staff, but for the community as a whole, to make it easier to access the health department and provide them services in a more efficient manner. So the mayor mentioned the grant that we have. In addition to that, the state is putting up, depending on the feasibility, up to $100,000 to put us a 2-lane drive-under portico in the event that could be useful if we ever have another situation where we have to do drive-through testing or vaccination. Also, probably in addition to the $349,000, any remodeling, I shouldn't say any, it will be limited, but I don't have the exact figure, but in my head I'm thinking probably up to about $100,000 addition to this $349 that will come out of our immunization program to help with remodeling and redoing the med room. So close to $500,000 in well, actually that would be about $500,000 with all of it that the state would be providing to the county to help with this remodel. But the overall possibility, and I think the challenge that, as the mayor said, is really just trying to come up with the most efficient use of not only the state's money, but the county's money. And, we want to be good stewards of the people's money, and that's what we try to do at the health department. So that's kind of where we've been a little bit back and forth on the planning process, but we're trying to come up with the most efficient way to do that with limited resources and limited ways that we can modify the building. So I thank you for your time, and I'll be glad to try to address any questions.
Thanks, sir. Anyone have any questions? I think right now the idea is maybe something in writing. Okay, all right.
With different levels, yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Is there any further business?
I do not have any.
Hearing none, we are adjourned.